If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. I post a new Tom Brady video every day.
I was in his living room and we were talking. This was maybe 7 years ago. It was before the sort of rest of the dynasty, which not only the Patriots, but really the Tom Brady dynasty kind of was reclamated. And he was telling me about, they had just lost to the Ravens in the playoffs, and he told me that Kurt Warner had sent him a text after the game saying, like, being the best doesn't mean you always win, it just means you win more than anybody else. And that text really meant a lot to him because it spoke to his essence in a way that very few messages could. Yes, it's always about winning, but it was often in failure that he found successes. And you know, there's people who argued he'd never leave New England after throwing a pick six on his final throw against the Titans. And there's people who'd argue he'd never go out losing to the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs. But, you know, it always misread him just a little bit. I think that what he prided himself on as much as anything is this kind of genius he had of refusing to concede to anyone else's idea of the inevitable or of reality in that regard.
I think the thing is that we took for granted what Tom Brady was actually doing when he was doing it. Because now when we look back at it, there were very few times that he lost games like Patrick Mahomes lost. And if he got the ball in overtime, you never saw it. Because before the rules became you had to score a touchdown, he was always going to get his team in field goal range, and Vinatieri or Gostkowski was going to knock it through, and oh well. Yeah. And if you needed a touchdown, he was going to get the touchdown. Skip, I just don't see it. I think Aaron Rodgers I've given Aaron Rodgers a decade to challenge Tom Brady for the GOAT status. I've given him a decade. He has the individual accolades, but at some point in time, you got to get your team.
Yep.
And that's what Tom Brady was able to get his team in situations you're like, 10 points? Tom Brady needs 10, Tom Brady gonna get 13. Tom Brady needs 14, he gonna get you 17. That's what normally happens with him.
The thing about Tom Brady is that he made it seem so easy. You know, when we talk about 10 Super Bowls, and we talk about winning 7, and you talk about, 14 championship games, and all of this stuff that, we just kind of flippantly throw around because it's Tom Brady. And, then you can, I feel so fortunate to have played in 3 Super Bowls. Drew Brees got to play in 1. Aaron Rodgers has played in 1. I mean, when you start to put it in perspective of how easy he made it and what he accomplished on the whole, I think in an era also, you're talking about in an era where we had other greats. You had Peyton Manning, you had Ben Roethlisberger, who just retired. You had, Brees and Rodgers, as I talked about. I mean, you talk about some of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in this game, and it was during that era where Tom Brady did all of this.
Peyton's NFL royalty. Tom was not drafted in the first round. That's well documented. Later in the draft, didn't even start, was often pulled at Michigan. So he had a different path to the NFL. Is that bitterness still remained? Would you call it competitiveness, chip on the shoulder? It does seem like Tom is almost obsessive still to this day about the draft and about Michigan and not being royalty day one in the league.
Without question. I mean, that's exactly right. He broke some record. I think it was Joe Montana's maybe playoff touchdown record last season. So I went up to him in the locker room before he came into the interview room, and I just said, hey, you just broke Montana's touchdown record. And Colin, what he said to me, he goes, pretty cool. Not bad for a 6th-round pick. and that's, 15 years later. So he's carried it around his entire career. It's driven him. It's what's made him great. He's told me he never wants to come off the field in practice to give his backup a chance, no matter who it is, to take his job. He says he goes out to practice every day with the one thought that he has to prove to Belichick that he's still the best quarterback for the Patriots. And you'd think at this point maybe he'd lighten up a little bit, but he felt he was so mishandled and it was so unfair what happened to him at Michigan that he's just carried this through. I mean, it's almost 20 years since, all the ups and downs of Michigan, and the guy's the most accomplished quarterback in NFL history, and he still does carry that chip on his shoulder on a daily basis, not just on Sundays, but on a daily basis at practice as well.
It was a part of our NFL that you said, okay, this is the one constant that we know every year is Tom Brady's going to have a chance to compete for the Super Bowl. Now who else is in the mix? So I think as a fan, we're all kind of bummed. As a fan, as we talked about on our show the other day, is that we're all very thankful. Not very often do you get a chance to witness the entirety of a career of what I think most of us believe is the greatest football player to ever play.
I don't think people realize that in Brady's first 5 years, he was 9-0 in the playoffs with 3 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Because we all sit back and go, I wish I would have had one more opportunity to do that. And he just made it look routine every year that this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to at least be in the AFC Championship game, and I'm probably going to be in the Super Bowl. And that just doesn't happen in any sport. And, and again, it's the ultimate team sport. We understand that. It takes a team to win championships. But that guy and that leader that you have, that you believe in, that you believe every time you step on the field you're going to win, is a difference maker, and that's why Super Bowls and wins get connected to quarterbacks, because those guys are the difference makers, and he just did it better than everyone else. And so I'm thankful that I got to witness it. If you got to get beat by somebody in a Super Bowl, it's okay to say you got beat by Tom Brady.
And we definitely took Tom Brady for granted. But you're going to find out over the next decade, when you find a different guy winning the Super Bowl damn near every year, you're like, well, hold on, Tom Brady was winning 3 and 4 years. Tom Brady went to 5 in like 6 years, 7 years.
Makes it look easy, and we all know it's not easy. Geez, Shannon, you went to 3, and it's like crazy to think about.
Years. Tom's such a great guy. I mean, everybody knows all the stuff that he's done on the field, his competitive nature, his, all that stuff. But he's just a great guy too. And I think him being a 6th-round draft choice, starting off and having to work his way to becoming who he is, made him a very hard-working, humble guy, and that's never changed. I mean, he's as good now as he ever was. I can't say enough good stuff about the man. He's such a great worker. He's a great friend. A little surprised. I mean, obviously he can still play. I think he could play another year or two. But when your kids and your family get a little bit older and you want to spend a little more time, and the one thing about Tom, what does he have to prove? Absolutely nothing at this point. He holds damn near every record that there ever is and will be, and he probably will hold them for a very, very long time.
And it's been a joy to watch him, and I feel like he's always done it the right way too. He's always done it with class and carried himself that way, and so just it's an honor to have competed against him, to have watched his career, and to know him as a friend.
You know what? And there's so many ways to follow up here, so I'm gonna go. I guess I got like 2 or 3 follow-ups. I'm gonna take the first one here about back in the day. So the Super Bowl is not any normal game where you're just warming up and just chit-chatting. But did you speak to Brady before, when he was just a kid looking for his first, and you're that guy 2 years removed from the Magic Carpet Ride that, by the way, is in theaters near you, an American Underdog, terrific movie. So did you have a conversation with him?
We spoke a little bit because we played earlier that year in New England, and so we had played once that year, and so we spoke a little bit. He kind of came on the scene similar to the way I did, and just kind of encouraged him and said, hey, you're doing a great job, keep it up. You never know what possibilities are. I mean, you look at me, but not a long conversation, but just kind of that introductory conversation with a young kid. And then we didn't speak before the Super Bowl, but talked afterwards. And, just one of those things that, again, at the time, you're disappointed for yourself, for whatever you can be happy for a young kid that gets the opportunity and does great and wins the Super Bowl. You're happy for them. But, let's be honest. I mean, I didn't see any of this coming in that game. He threw for like 150 yards and, had a great drive at the end to kind of put him over the top. But, you know, it wasn't this Tom Brady. And so I got a chance to kind of see that and see him win as being a complementary piece and just a part of a team to becoming the Tom Brady that we know that led teams and carried teams to that point. And so, we had some initial, you know, simple conversations, but never with any inkling of what was ahead for him.
That's it for this video. I post a new Tom Brady video every day, so please like and subscribe. That way you'll always have a new Tom Brady video to watch every single day.